How's it going, Olivia? Out to everybody's Preacher Moss, the host of the SOS Shout Out Show. Hope everybody's having a beautiful Wednesday. First thing off the top, please allow me to apologize to our Shout Out Show family for last week's show. I made some mistakes, lost track of time, and just traveling. Trying to multitask, and I needed to focus on one thing. I apologize. So the show started late last week. I was attending a funeral for my good friend Lewis Miller III. Peace and blessings to his family during this time. Condolences again. Alhamdulillah, I was able to make his funeral on the same day. Imam Jamil Amin was laid to rest, returned to Allah. Peace and blessings to his family as well, and all the people that ventured down to Florida for his homegoing, his janaza. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Listen, today's show is titled Endangered Species, Muslim Resilience and Creativity. Two ideas, two concepts, two things that are definitely fundamental to, I don't want to just say religion, but I'm going to say religion, revolution, evolution, progress, stability, all these main things. I find that they are under attack in some regards. In some regards, not only they're under attack, but they're missing. And the way that we're dealing with some of the problems that we're seeing, our politics seems a little bit skewed. I may be wrong, but I may be right that some of us have grown weary of constantly having to fight for things that you normally don't have to fight for. They were normal things. They were, things that pioneers have worked for. They were equated to us in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And here we are finding ourselves having to fight for the things that were already given to us, that we had earned. Let me say that again. You're fighting for things that you had already earned. So in this show, we're going to talk about that. And I'm actually going to talk about the Muslim issue of resilience and creativity, largely because, we are traditionally have been, particularly in African American Muslim community, African American community, we have been the movers and shakers. We have been the people who've moved the needle on social movement and social change. So for this show, I would like to take just a little bit of time to go into that. And I hope you guys afford me, if you will, you just afford me a little bit of time, because I really have to. It's a lot of history. When I go into a topic like this, I can't go just from my knowledge base. I really have to recall sitting at the feet of pioneers and leaders and intellectual giants and the books I've read and some of the arguments that I've made, and I've made them, I defended them. But I think it's really important that we really get down to it, because we've lost that art of constructive dialogue that led to our creativity, that led to our resilience, not only resilience, but our resistance. And it's under attack now. It was systematic. You went to schools, the schools had the higher learning, and where we had the intellectual arguments, if you will. You had the intellectual arguments, you had in law the constitutional arguments, but now we find that those institutions are under attack because they're worried about not being able to get the money and the funding that they need to continue running. That's one. Number two, at a basic level, we had at the library level that books were being removed. Books that were standard, Huckleberry Finn, Catcher in the Rye, all these books. They even tried to remove the autobiography of Malcolm X. You have this pulling away of what I want to say intellectual growth books. And what I mean by that is these are the things that make you grow. It sounds cliche, but how many Muslims were not Muslim? They read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and the systematic logic that was in that book led many of us to become Muslim, or led many of us to be conscious of the world around us, not necessarily as Muslims. I read the book when I was 16, but I didn't give hurt to some years later. But it put me in a frame of mind that I looked at the environment around me, and I began to make value judgments. I value my education a little bit different. I value the way I went to work a little bit different. I value my elders a little bit different because I understood that from what the framework that was being taught, what I learned was there were things that are missing. There were things that when we talk about resistance, we think that it's people just getting up and going rah, 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 and people being angry. No, true resistance, going back to King and Vernon Johns and the great revolts of a Nat Turner, the great revolts of a John Brown, these were strategic decisions that were made, meant, if you will, to change the culture. So here on the Shout Out Show, we're going to talk about that today. I appreciate you guys. We've got some great programs coming up in December in Washington, D.C. We're going to be showing those ads. But right now, let's go ahead and get the show rolling. I'm Preacher Moss. Thank you for joining me here on the Shout Out Show. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Hold everything. Stop the counting. Man, I look good. I'm Preacher Moss. Don't look at me like I'm the only Muslim that uses a salam to get people to shut up. I'm announcing the first annual Preacher Moss All Muslim, All DMV New Year's Eve comedy extravaganza kicking off at Center DC. We're bringing in 2026 with class, laughs, food, and a good mood. It's a first of its kind for Muslims and Muslim families as we have two shows, 7:30 and 9:30, with a countdown following the 9:30 show. We've got the funniest Muslims, the funniest comedians in the game coming to Washington, D.C. to help you bring in your 2026. Start the countdown. Stop, it's too early for the New Year's countdown. That countdown is for people to get their tickets. Tickets are limited, and we anticipate a sellout. Proceed. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Two great announcements. Three great announcements. This weekend, I'll be at Al Medina Institute in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'll be there for the fundraiser on December the 6th. This week, if you're in the Little Rock area, unfortunately, I'm just kidding. If you're in the Little Rock area and you want to come and support a great cause, please come out and support Medina Institute, and your brother will be doing the comedy after the fundraising, inshallah. And in Washington, D.C., we have two events, not one, two. It's a Preacher Moss twofer. First, December the 27th, we have the Preacher Moss first annual East Coast Black Muslim Singles Networking and Comedy Gala, going to be held at Suite 2, 2323 Martin Luther King Avenue in Southeast Washington. And then on New Year's, Preacher Moss' first annual New Year's Eve comedy extravaganza, we are going to be holding at Center DC on 9th Street. Listen, you don't want to miss it. Get your tickets because they are limited. Okay. Let me get to our shout out family first. Let's get to our shout out family. What's going on, Sister Ree? How you doing? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you. My man, Altaf Rashid. Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. One of our day ones. We call him Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Our Canadian envoy to the show. What's going on, beloved? Okay, and of course, we got Brother Jabril, all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina. Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good brother. Good to see you, man. I have to ask you, Jabril, did you make it to Imam Jamil's janazah? I had to ask. I for some reason, I had an idea of you going. I want to give a shout out to my brother who I hung out with. I had a great time with the Thomas family. My brother came, picked me up, make sure I was okay. He got me out of there before it snowed. Shout out to the Thomas family, JT, Yolanda, Jordan, Justin, Rachel, and of course, Miss Thomas and Eunice and Vivian, everybody. Let's had a great time. Shout out to the boys. My nephew's looking good. Yeah, looks good on Jordan, JT. I just want to tell you that. So, who else? That's about it. Shout out to my mom and my aunt who who, who made it to Washington Hospital Center and made it back without killing anybody, including themselves. Alhamdulillah. And shout out to my brother Rick. Rick, lifesaver, man. Thank you for taking the Golden Girls over for that procedure and bringing them back. Okay, I'm ready. Endangered species, Muslim resilience, and creativity. I've tried to figure out the best way with a calm sense of urgency to explain to you that we are in probably one of the worst deficits for creativity. What I mean is the creativity is so lacking that people can lie and they don't even put any emphasis or energy behind the lie. It is that, people have perceived that we have a lazy mindset. Now, the Muslim community is kind of different because, we have theological impetus that question these things. But what's happened is we moved away from the theological emphasis or the template that we use to question things, debate things, if you will. And now we've given over to arguments. Now, here's the thing about arguments. The thing about argument is it has to have a beginning point and an end point. If you find yourself in an argument with somebody and you feel like it's not going anywhere, you're in a bad argument. The other part of it is if you engage in an argument, there is a practicum. The practicum is where we start an argument, where we end, and what do we learn from each other's opinions. So when you walk away, you may not agree with one another, you may not agree with a position, but at least you're more informed in that position. We're not having that today. What we have is a farcical government, farcical politicians who have aligned themselves. I don't want to use the word fascist, but they've aligned themselves with a fascist lifestyle. That's probably worse than following a fascist lifestyle, in which the thing that has to be attacked directly is creativity. You see, when you're creative, it leads to that resiliency, it leads to resistance. Trust me, those who are around Malcolm X, who talked about his strength and his discipline, you know what they also talked about? His sense of humor. The same thing with Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his sense of humor. I heard it from the lips of the Honorable Dick Gregory. I heard it from the lips of Dick Gregory that Malcolm was a funny man. And he said that Malcolm was a funny man because he had to be able to balance the world for different perspectives, including his. If you think about his move from NOI, the Sunni, to being able to still, in his mind, embrace the goodness of his people and work on that regard of his people, pretty amazing. Even in traditional Islam, we talk about our blessed Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. There's still the scope of this man had so many things, leading a religion, leading people. But what did they talk about? His smile and his laugh. You see, smiling is a response. Laughing is a response. Okay? Pain is a reality. Discomfort is a reality that comes from a response. In those two things, I want everybody to know we are capable of doing amazing things if, one, we believe that the models that have come before us are viable models, and two, if we believe that we can recreate that model or make a better model. Two things: recreate that model or make a better model. The idea of resistance here in the United States is protest, but it's not progress. Let me say it again. It's protest, but it's not progress. To show 100,000 people in a town protesting doesn't mean anything if you're not getting the desired result. The sadness of this ceasefire in Gaza is that it was never a ceasefire. It's just that the moment people got a chance to take a break from the daily bombardment of pictures and people being bombed and people being killed and bodies being blown all over the place, the moment people got a respite from that, they took off and they never wanted to come back. Nobody wanted to come back to the reality of what was happening. Nobody wants to come back to the reality of Sudan. In fact, they don't even take us to Sudan. It's a much smaller issue than the Gaza was. I'm just giving you the facts. But the problem is, in our lack of response, in our lack of creative initiative, what you have is people who are emboldened. Let me tell you something as a comedian, if this makes sense to you. When you're a comedian on stage and you are telling jokes, okay, thanks, Satana. Was that me? Satana's like, you need to wrap it up. Thank you, though, Satana. What I wanted to say, and this is pretty quick, when you're a comedian on stage, people assume that when you're on stage that you have a certain level of creativity. Listen to me, this is very important. They assume that you have a certain level of creativity. And this is where it gets, I think I can make the point. When you're not making people laugh or making feel like they made a valid investment to come see you at a show, or at least sit in a chair and listen to you for 30 minutes to an hour, those people will sit and realize if you're not made, they're going to think that you're not creative. Now you can say that people are yawning or they're not clapping, they're not laughing, whatever the response is, but people are making an assessment that you're not creative. And from that, they begin to wonder, well, why am I spending my time? If the idea was that I was going to come here to be entertained by this young man or this young lady on stage and they don't have the goods, why am I getting here? Why am I sitting here? You know, a lot of times what you'll get a heckler. And a heckler will seize upon the fact that they don't think you're creative. And they're not worried about them being creative, more creative than you. They're worried about them being more creative than you in that situation. And so when they interfere with the show, it's because they don't respect your creativity. Now, some of us are samurai. We'll cut you 3 or 4 different ways, and we'll deal with a heckler and get back to the show. That's the part of resilience. The creative part about it is it's fun to come up with material rather than just stand on stage and cut somebody out for 15 minutes. That ain't funny. In this situation scenario, I'm saying that we've let a lot of things pass. We let a lot of things pass, and people have begun to make value assessments on creativity, which is really the resilience or the ability in some regards to be able to respond in a way that's advantageous to us. You know, just the whole thing, like the Trump and you know the Secretary of Defense shooting people in the boats. Let me tell you what I think. First of all, they're talking about drug dealers. They're alleged drug dealers. Alleged, which means you're not questioning them, which means you're not arresting them. My cousin worked in the Coast Guard for almost 30 years. They used to handle that. They used to board ships and they would look and they would make a determination whether the person was transporting drugs. The other part about it is those boats that are on, they're like the SS Minnow. They're like dinghies. They're never going to make it to the United States. They're never going to make it to the United States. They're not set up that way. Look, Venezuela is not Cuba. You hear what I'm saying? Then the killer part is you make this whole situation. You make this whole situation about what? About drugs coming into the United States, and at the same time, the president just gave a pardon to the former president of Honduras who got caught with 400. It doesn't matter if it's 400 pounds, 400 kilos of cocaine. Damn it, that's a lot of cocaine. So my point is, now this is where the creativity comes in. Well, if you're going to let the former president of Honduras who got caught with 400 kilos of cocaine come in, then we need to pass human. I almost said it. What's the word? After people are not posthumously, it's not that. You know what it is. All right. So we need to take all the old drug dealers, right? Everybody from Frank Lucas, everybody from we're gonna find Frank Lucas, we're gonna find Rayful Edmonds, we're gonna find Tony Montana, and we're gonna all give them pardons. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give all of them pardons. Anybody that got caught with dope, you're gonna get a pardon. And the thing is, they're gonna say, "Why'd you get a pardon?" Because I only got caught with 2 kilos. He got caught with 400. I want my pardon. There you go. Now, let's move forward. The attacks now have become ridiculous. ICE has now moved into New Orleans. First of all, if you ever been to New Orleans, you can't tell the black folks from the white folks from the Latinos. Because they all look the same. You can't. You got black people dark as Wesley Snipes with wavy black hair. You don't know. You can't tell Native Americans. Why in the world would you even go to New Orleans? And I hope that gonna be there during Mardi Gras, because that back line gonna be a mess, Satana. That's all I'm saying. That second line gonna be a mess. That's all I'm saying. And they're going to Minnesota. I don't think the move to Minnesota is smart. I don't think the National Guard is gonna be up there too long, because it's cold in Minnesota. You don't have immigration issues until July. It's cold up in Minnesota. When the place thaws out, you might catch 1 or 2 Mexicans on the way to Houston because of the weather. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Let me get to this whole thing about resilience. And there's no halal way to say this. Muslims, you gotta stop getting punked. Just stop getting punked. Okay? This is what I mean. Just because you think somebody's gonna swing at you, don't plan your whole day like somebody's gonna swing at you. Okay, this is what I mean. Yeah. Let's stop. I wanna issue a moratorium on the word Islamophobia for like the next 60 days. Find a new word for Islamophobia. Crazy crackers. Hey, Satan, I came up with a new one. Schizophrenics. You're going to be dealing with schizophrenic people for the next 2 months. And here's the deal. They're not creative. And the reason why they're not creative is they all sit around in a line waiting to take orders. Not asking questions, not bringing any logic. This just it. Someone told them to do that. Someone told them to do that. That's their reason. Someone told them. National Guard is in Washington, D.C. doing nothing. Doing nothing. Okay? All of D.C. is being shut down now with 500 more National Guard people because of someone who shot somebody. They weren't even from D.C. They came all the way from Washington State to shoot somebody. Now, here's my problem. And they shot him downtown. The National Guard, listen, I don't mean, look, if I need my trash picked up, if I need some sandbags made, cool. National Guard is not the police. I'm here to tell you, if DC police saw this person, it'd have been a problem. In fact, if this person had gone to parts of Southeast DC, you'd have never heard about him. It'd have been a blip, because you pull out over there, they pull out on you. That's all I'm saying. So let me add this. And in fact, why don't we go to commercial and we'll be right back. Go ahead, Stan. You've been waiting to run that commercial. Go ahead. Chill out. The man ain't coming and this ain't right. This is an intervention and call to action for Black Muslim singles. In the name of Black Muslim love, I'm claiming December 27th, the first annual East Coast Black Muslim Singles Networking and Comedy Gala. All roads lead to Washington, D.C., formerly known as the Chocolate City, the gentrification from the Shaitan. Anyways, We have what you need for the holiday season. Ho ho no, I'm calling out the elite of the elite Black Muslim singles to join us in Washington, D.C. for the first annual East Coast Black Muslim Singles Networking and Comedy Gala held December 27, 2025. Sweet Tooth Restaurant and Cafe, comedy by preaching friends, food by Chef Steve, and the star is you. Get your tickets. Early bird tickets are $75. After December the 9th, 85. Sweet Tooth Restaurant and Cafe, 2323 Martin Luther King Avenue, Washington, D.C. in Southeast, December the 27th, 7th through the 10th. You don't want to miss it. All right. We got commercials galore. Thank you so much, Satana. So, I wanted to continue on this trajectory, talking about Muslim resilience. And here's the thing that's happened since Trump took office and why resilience is low. We don't communicate like we used to. And anybody can jump in if you're in the comment section. Jump in. Oh, Jabril said you were thinking about going to Atlanta, but couldn't make it to Atlanta. I got you. I thought it was gonna be. I thought the Jazz was gonna be in Atlanta too for Man Jabril. Let me get focused. We don't talk about much these days. What we talk about is the safe stuff. We talk about the safe stuff. We speak to each other in code because a lot of times we don't trust talking to one another. Because the community has been so infiltrated that we have spies, we have snitches, and they're not halal. We got haram snitches who look for people who have excitement, creative ideas, initiative, because those are the people who are the quote unquote troublemakers. They're not the troublemakers, those are the creative people. They're the ones who lead the resilience that moves us to resistance, that moves us to, I want to say, credible intellectual action, and it scares the hell out of people. I go to matches now. You pretty much probably got to go to almost an NOI match to hear about what's going on in the world today and have some emotional. That imam up there, he's emotional about what's going on. Not what's going on across the seas, of course he is, but he's talking about right here, what's happening at our doorstep. And we're not having the conversation about what's happening at our doorstep anymore. We speak in these really weird abstract terms. I remember when I said, it was on the show, I said a ceasefire is not cease war. Why? Because, I did 6 years in military school, but I understood the fact that it's a war if two people claim it. It's a war if two people claim it. Gaza has no defense. IDF, they're not really a standing army, but they stood long enough knowing that I can win fighting against people who are defenseless or fighting against people who we know we can keep defenseless. And you have to be foolish to believe that an opinion stops an animal. An opinion stops a bullet. It doesn't, folks. It doesn't. And if we began to really, really, look at just look at the scope of progress in the Middle East. There's been none. There's been none. Since the Nakba, there's been none. Everything, this is what they do. And this is the big deal. Now, I won't go over today. But what happens is, what they do is they take all the people who have creativity and resilience and they wait you out. The saddest thing about Imam Jamil Al-Amin is that they waited him out. They put him in prison long enough whereby when he came out, all he could do was be dead. He wasn't effective. They made sure he was out of his space of influence, his sphere of influence, and they let that brother die. May Allah be pleased with him. The returns of Allah are the same as Imam Talib Abdul Rashid, that they return, that our wars return, and it is on us, if you understand what I'm saying, we have to carry the creativity and the resilience of these brothers that they did for so many years. All right? So listen, that's the show. Going back out there, be creative, be resilient. revolution, fight the power. Okay, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Take care.